Hi, and welcome to Read to Me, Matt Dunn. I'm Matt Dunn, and I'm going to attempt to read words. These books are full of them, and I only have to put them in the order they were placed. It's that simple, right? I just got to say them out loud. From word to voice, or page to voice. You know what I mean? Let's get this on. Pride and Prejudice. Chapter 16. Ooh! I got this bookmark from a book I found at the Salvation Army. 'Twas a long time ago. I buy so many books, and then a lot of books come with bookmarks in them because people don't lose. They drop the book down and then they don't read it, but then they donate it, right? Like the best way to get bookmarks. It's amazing. I think it's a part of a puzzle, but I could be wrong. The puzzle to my life. Chapter 16. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I don't know if I said that. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Chapter 16. Definitely that chapter. Am I plugged in? I am plugged in. We are good to go. Sound check. 1, 2. As no objection was made to the young people's engagement with their aunt, and all Mr. Collins's scruples of leaving Mr. and Mrs. Bennet for a single evening during his visit were most steadily resisted, the coach conveyed him and his 5 cousins at a suitable hour to Meryton, and the girls had the pleasure of hearing as they entered the drawing-room, and that Mr. Wickham had accepted their uncle's invitation, and was then in the house. Wow, what a sentence. I think that was the whole fucking paragraph. It could be wrong. When this information was given, and they had all taken their seats, Mr. Collins was at leisure to look around him and admire. And he was so much struck with the size and furniture of the apartment that he declared he might almost have supposed himself. Ooh, he supposed himself. I'm sorry. I've supposed himself in the small summer breakfast parlor at Rosings, a comparison that did not at first convey much gratification, but when Mrs. Phillips understood from him what Rosings was, and who was its proprietor, when she had listened to the description of only one of Lady Catherine's drawing rooms, and found that the chimney piece alone had cost £800, she felt all the force of the compliment, and would hardly have resented a comparison with the housekeeper's room. Blimey! In describing to her all the grandeur of Lady Catherine and her mansion, with occasional digressions in praise of his own humble abode. Oh, let me praise my own humble abode. So humble of me, I praise it. And the improvements in it was receiving, he was happily employed until the gentlemen joined them. And he found in Mrs. Phillips a very attentive listener, whose opinion of his consequence increased with what she heard, and who was resolved to retail all among her neighbors as soon as she could. To the girls, who could not listen to their cousin, and who had nothing to do but to wish for an instrument, and examine their own indifferent imitations of china on the mantelpiece. I don't know what china is. Oh, imitations of china they're moving their dishes on the mantelpiece. Because the china is not capitalized. If it was capitalized, they'd be doing Chinese impressions probably, like racist ones. So, but china plates, I don't know why they call it china. Maybe they're from China. Maybe they're made from Chinese bones. That's interesting. But anyway, they're moving to China around. China, China, China. And then they're like, I am moving to China. I'm just finding my spot. On the maintenance panel. Mantelpiece. The interval of waiting appeared very long. It was over at last, however. The gentleman did approach, and when Mr. Wickham walked into the room, Elizabeth felt that she had neither been seeing him before. Elizabeth felt that she had neither been seeing him before, nor thinking of him since. With the smallest degree of unreasonable admiration, the officers of the Shire. What the fuck is? It doesn't matter. Okay, I'm questioning per the purpose of the writing. I'm not an educated fella, so I have to wonder why it says the officers of the, and then every time before the word Shire, it has like that long ass dash line, like they were interrupted. But instead, the officers of the Shire were in the. See, it's like I don't get the punctuation. I don't get the grammatical choice, shall we say. The officers of the Shire, let's just fucking say it, right? Were in generally very credible, gentlemanlike set, and the best of them were of the present party. But Mr. Wickham was as far beyond them all in person, countenance, air, and walk, as they were superior to the broad-faced, stuffy Uncle Phillips, breathing port wine, who followed them in the room. I don't understand that one. Maybe you do. Maybe he's glugging it. Mr. Wickham was the happy man, towards whom almost every female eye was turned, and Elizabeth was the happy woman by whom he finally seated himself, and the agreeable manner in which he immediately fell into conversation, though it was only on its being a wet night and on the probability of a rainy season, made her feel that the commonest, dullest, most threadbare topic might be rendered interesting by the skill of the speaker. With such rivals for the notice of the fair as Mr. Wickham and the officers, Mr. Collins seemed to sink into insignificance. To the young ladies he certainly was nothing. Just nothing. Just give up, man. You are already fucking gone. Out of their mind, out of their eyes, out of their sparkling eyes of death. But he had still, at intervals, a kind listener in Mrs. Phillips, and was, by her watchfulness, most abundantly supplied with coffee and muffins. Mrs. Phillips. She sounds like a lovely lady. Quite nice, I bet. I wonder who this Mrs. Phillips is. Let's get to know her, shall we? When the card tables were placed, he had an opportunity of obliging her in return by sitting down to whist. I know little of the game at present, said he, but I shall be glad to improve myself, for in my situation in life. Mrs. Phillips was very thankful for his compliance, but could not wait for his reason. Mr. Wickham did not play at whist. It's whist, sorry. And with ready delight was he received at the other table between Elizabeth and Lydia. At first, there seemed danger of Lydia's engrossing him entirely, for she was a most determined talker. But, being likewise extremely fond of lottery tickets, as we all are, she soon grew too much interested in the game, too eager in making bets and exclaiming after prizes, to have attention for anyone in particular. Allowing for the common demands of the game, Mr. Wickham was therefore at leisure to talk to Elizabeth. And she was very willing to hear him, though what she chiefly wished to hear she could not hope to be told, the history of his acquaintance with Mr. Darcy. She dared not even mention that gentleman. Her curiosity, however, was expectedly relieved. Mr. Wickham began the subject himself. He inquired how far Netherfield was from Meryton, and after receiving her answer, asked in a hesitating manner how long Mr. Darcy had been staying there. "Oh, about a month," said Elizabeth, and then, unwilling to let the subject drop, added, "He was a man of very large property in Derbyshire, I understand." Yeah," replied Wickham. His estate there is a noble one. Clear 10,000 per annum. You could not have met with a person more capable of giving you certain information on that head than myself, for I have been connected with his family in a particular manner from my infancy. Just totally. Like, I'm dope. Elizabeth could not but look surprised. What? You know this guy? You may well be surprised, Miss Bennet, at such an assertion after seeing, as you probably might, the very cold manner of our meeting yesterday. Are you much acquainted with Mr. Darcy? And this is Elizabeth. As much as I'd ever wished to be," cried Elizabeth warmly. "I have spent 4 days in the same house with him, and I think him very disagreeable. That little fucker. So disagreeable. I have no..." and then the Wickham dude's like, "I have no right to give my opinion," said Wickham. As to his being agreeable or otherwise, I am not qualified to form one. I have known him too long and too well to be a fair judge. It is impossible for me to be impartial. But I believe your opinion of him would in general astonish, and perhaps you would not express it quite so strongly anywhere else. Here you are in your own family." That sounds like a dick thing to say. Let's see what happens. "Upon my word, I say no more here than I might say in any house in any in the neighborhood, except Netherfield, of course. He is not at all liked in Hertfordshire. Everybody is disgusted with his pride. You will not find him more favorable spoken of by anyone." "Oof. Well, I cannot pretend to be sorry," said Wickham, after a short interruption, "that he or that any man should not estimate..." I cannot pretend to be sorry," said Wickham, after a short interruption, "that he or that any man should not be estimated beyond their deserts. You can't have that pie, but I can have deserts. Anyway, estimated beyond their deserts. Let's say deserts. But with him, I believe it does not often happen. The world is blinded by his fortune and consequence, or frightened by his high and imposing manners, and sees him only as he chooses to be seen. I should take him, even on my slight acquaintance, to be an ill-tempered man." Wickham only shook his head. "I wonder," he said, "at the next opportunity of speaking, whether he is likely to be in this country much longer." I do not at all know, but I heard nothing of his going away when I was at Netherfield. I hope your plans in favor of the Shire will not be affected by his being in the neighborhood. In the neighborhood. Oh. No, it is not for me to be driven away by Mr. Darcy. If he wishes to avoid seeing me, he must go. We are not on friendly terms, and it always gives me pain to meet him. But I have no reason for avoiding him. But what I might proclaim before all the world, a sense of very great ill usage and most painful regrets at his being what he is. His father, Miss Bennet, His father, Miss Bennet, the late Mr. Darcy, was one of the best men that ever breathed and the truest friend. What the fuck? I'm getting really confused when they switch pronouns. I don't know if this book needs some editing. What the hell? Okay, so anyway, let me tell you this. His father, comma, it says Miss Bennet, comma. What does this say? Is he someone talking? What the fuck is this shit? I'm not reading it right. Got it. He's addressing Miss... I'm so fucking stupid. It's so hard. Why do people have to say that? Okay, so he's saying his father, Miss Bennet, the late Mr. Darcy. See, like that. But I'm just so stupid. I can't read things. I'm really not good at this. So anyway, his father, Miss Bennet, the late Mr. Darcy, was one of the best men that ever breathed, and the truest friend I ever had. And I could never be in company with this Mr. Darcy without being grieved to the soul by 1,000 tender recollections. His behavior to myself has been scandalous, but I verily believe I could favor him anything and everything rather than his disappointing the hopes and disgracing the memories of his father. Jesus, Elizabeth's like weird, okay? Elizabeth found the interest of the subject increase and listened with all her heart. But the delicacy of it prevented farther inquiry. Mr. Wickham began to speak on more general topics, Meryton, the neighborhood, the society, appearing highly pleased with all that he had yet seen, and speaking of the latter especially with gentle but very intelligible gallantry. It was the prospect of constant society and good society, he added, which was my chief inducement to enter the Shire. I knew it to be most respectable, agreeable corps, and my friend Denny tempted me farther by his account of their present quarters, and the very great attentions and excellent acquaintance Meryton had procured them. Society, I own, is necessary to me. I have been a disappointed man, and my spirits will not bear solitude. I must have employment and society. A military life is not what I was intended for, but circumstances have now made it eligible. The church ought to have been my profession. I was brought up for the church, and I should at this time have been in possession of a most valuable living, had it pleased the gentleman we were speaking of just now. Who indeed, says it, that's Elizabeth. Yes, the late Mr. Darcy bequeathed me the next presentation of the best living in his gift. He was my godfather, and excessively attached to me. I cannot do justice to his kindness. He meant to provide for me amply, and thought he had done it. But when the living fell, it was given elsewhere. Good heaven, cried Elizabeth. But how could that be? How could his will be disregarded? Why did you not seek legal redress? And there we will end it for part 1. It's so good. This book is very good. So nice. Oh, it slides right in like I got it from that spot. Hey, if you'd like for me to keep reading, please check out some more of my videos. Hey, give me a thumbs up, like it if you like it, you know what I mean. Subscribe, and shoot me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. If you think I'm stupid, what you thought about, all those times that I'm stumbling on my words. If you think I'm an idiot, if you think I'm a genius, or if you think I'm just a complete idiot who is in front of a camera doing this for complete strangers, and that's okay. So, hey, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.